At the beginning of every project, you have this moment where you have a vision in your head, but you have not yet answered the most important question. Where do you start? Well, I might have the answer. Where exactly to place the highlights and shadows on your model, and even what colors you need to get there. And it's all incredibly easy. At least, I hope it's incredibly easy. Zenithal highlighting is a tried and true technique in finding the highlights and shadows on your model. In theory, the black base will act as your shadows, and the white sprayed from above will act as your light source, illuminating where light would hit your model. But when I look at a Zenithal highlighted model, it's not nearly as clear as I would like it to be. If you can look at this and see exactly where to place your pinnacle highlights as well as extrapolate the smooth gradations of your midtone, then good for you. But when I look at it, I can't see it. Unless, of course, that just means I'm bad at airbrushing. No, that's definitely not it. Cue experiments. Experiment 1. Trying to make better Zenithal highlights. I have this theory that if I paint my model completely black, I can then use a light to create more realistic highlights and shadows. I'm diffusing my light with a plastic bag, shutting off all the other lights in the room, and then positioning it over my model. Depending on the size of the light, the proximity of the light to your subject, and the angle of the light, you can create some pretty cool and unique lighting scenarios. So far, it's doing exactly what I was hoping. The light is helping to illuminate my pinnacle highlights, and my midtones are definitely a lot easier to see as well. Once I'm happy with the angle of my light, I'm taking 4 photos, one of each side of the model. To help differentiate the highlights, midtones, and shadows even more, I'm pulling the photo into an editing software. Then I'm increasing the brightness in the shadows to show more details in those areas, and pulling up the highlights to better see where my pinnacle highlights would fall. To create my comparison, I'm now painting this model with Zenithal highlights using a white ink from above, and then we'll compare the two techniques. Look at all these details that I catch in the photo version that get lost in the Zenithal highlighted version. You can see the detailed shadows in the photo under the arm, at the fabric in the chest, the mouth, and the hook. The transition from midtone to shadow in the fabric is also far more visible in my photo. And as a bonus, I don't have to worry about painting over my map like I normally do when working with Zenithal highlights. I could photograph my Zenithal highlights, but this is better. Before I start painting, I'm pulling my image into PosterShine. PosterShine is an app that simplifies light and color, breaking them down into more understandable shapes. I'll be creating a guide to PosterShine on my Patreon in the near future. But basically, imagine that each color section is a new layer of paint. In short, you've just created your own paint by numbers. To make this even easier, I'll be painting in black and white so I can really focus on color placement to create realistic volumes. When you're still learning, color makes everything more difficult. What colors do you need? And what are the best techniques to use with those colors? If you're trying to understand light and shadow, or maybe even just learning a technique like layering, it is so much easier when you paint in black and white. Once my general layers are placed, I'm switching back to the photo to better understand the smooth gradations that will help make this look realistic. And while all of this is fine and good and it turned out perfectly, what if we could do this with color? Before we go on to our next experiment, let's take a minute to talk about this week's sponsor, Idols of Torment. Idols of Torment is a 2-person skirmish game in a dark cinematic setting by the amazing Jeremy from Blackmagic Craft. The game comes with 8 themed orders, each with totally unique miniatures that were so cool I had to print some from multiple sets, and I have no doubt that these will be appearing on my Dungeons & Dragons table. Models come in hard plastic or 3D printable files, and the small model count of each order and the unique abilities each order provides encourages you to paint and prepare multiple sets of models to help make every game you play unique. Support Idols of Torment and Jeremy from Blackmagic Craft by backing the game on Kickstarter, link in my description box. Congrats Jeremy on your amazing launch, back to painting. Experiment 2, lighting with color. Okay, new thought. What if I basically do the same thing as before, but this time I paint the model with the color that I want each area to be? My hope is that the light from above will help give realistic highlights and shadows, but in the exact color that we want for our model. No. That doesn't work at all. That just looks like a tiny figurine with paint on it and a desk lamp shining on it from above. Experiment 3. Lighting with actual color. Okay, the last one was a dud, but maybe this one will work. I have this colored LED light, and I'm thinking that maybe I can do the same thing as before. Black model, dark room, light from above, but with colored light, I can still make this work. No. So it is working with color, but not all of my colors. The red is just not showing up nearly as well as several of my other colors, and it's not giving off the realistic highlights and shadows I'm after. What if I try doing the colored light over zenithal highlighting? Black absorbs light while white reflects light. So hopefully the colored light will appear more vibrant and true on the white, but will still give me the necessary shadows to get that realistic reference photo I'm wanting. Wow, okay, that actually looks fantastic. It is doing everything I wanted it to do. The color is vibrant and true, the shadows appear far more realistic, and as a bonus, as I move my light closer and further from my model, I can even change the intensity of my highlight color. I'm choosing to do a purplish color on the fabric for this model. I'm once again taking photos of my model with my light source from above and playing with exposure until my color really starts to show on my phone. The exposure varied from color to color, so play around with it if you need to. Due to my limited colors and my LED, I was not able to get the exact shade of purple that I wanted. Magenta, purple, blue, yellow, orange, darker orange, sunburst orange, red. Then I'm opening these photos in my editing software and adjusting the saturation and warmth of the photo to find the perfect shade I'm looking for. Then it's on to poster shine to simplify my colors, highlights, and shadows. Then mixing paint on my palette to match my exact colors. I'm following the same format as last time, placing my colors exactly where I want them on my model, following the reference photo. For right now, I'm being pretty messy. I can always go back in and smooth out my gradations later. While referencing poster shine, if you feel like there's too big of a jump between colors, you should definitely add in another layer of color. Poster shine is to serve as a starting point when things seem overwhelming, but trust in yourself over the app. If something feels wrong, don't just blindly follow it. There's one other thing I want to note about utilizing a reference photo. Since you're referencing an image that is backlit from your screen, you are never going to be able to get the exact perfect colors that you see on your screen on your model. It just isn't going to happen. Instead, I recommend attempting to create the same contrast by bringing your highlight up brighter. For this model, I'm mixing in a bit of purple from the Golden So Flat Vibrant set to help reach the vibrancy I'm after. Overall, this was a really fun experiment, and I will definitely be using it in my future painting. In some ways, it was a lot faster, as my colors were right there and I didn't have to ponder the location of my volumes. But in some ways, it was slower, as I referenced my image quite a bit and spent a decent amount of time studying it. I'm sure that somewhere there is a happy middle ground where the image provides you with more answers than it does limitations. Alright, if you like this video, be sure to check out my No BS Guide to Miniature Painting, where I cover all of the corners you can cut to get from the painting table to the game table. If you like what I do, you know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, go join me over on Patreon. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.